Hi, it's Liam from Transmutation Knits, and today I'm going to walk you through the benefits of making your own sock ruler and how to place your lifelines for the Afterthought heel and toe. Here you can see the foot rulers I have made for my family. I have them stand on a flexible cutting board and trace their feet so I can make their socks accurately. I have found these to be helpful because socks need to fit just right, and working off of commercial shoe sizes doesn't give me the full picture. You can see on the feet tracings I have here that there's a lot of variation in width and length, even on feet that are very similar in size. These feet allow me to make socks for my family and trust that they will fit with very minor adjustments, if any. Let's take a closer look at my sock ruler and talk about the benefits of Afterthought heels and toes. So on my foot ruler, you can see the line where I have marked 2 inches from the top of my toe. Afterthought toes add about 2 inches of length to the final length of your sock, so I made sure to measure from the tip of my tracing. The nice thing about the Afterthought style is that if there is a high stress point that is prone to wear in the toes of my socks, repairing them is easy. I can rib the sock back to the 2-inch mark where I started the toe and only worry about having to knit that section again. The same goes for my heels. My heels also add 2 inches of length. Again, you want to measure from the furthest point on your foot, and since I find that a tad tricky to do by myself, I recommend tracing your foot on a piece of paper and measuring so that your socks fit as accurately as possible. Doing a tracing can be the difference between ripping out only a couple of rows when you get to try on a sock or an inch or more. I find my classic cutting mat tracings irreplaceable, but for the purpose of this class, paper tracing will do the trick, if that's what you have on hand. Now that we have our tracing with our heel and toe marked, we are going to put our lifelines in where we want our heels and toes to be. Start by laying the tube flat on the table and lining the Afterthought toe line where you would like it to be on your tube. This will determine where your heel will fall on the tube. My heel will split the stripe if I keep my toe here, but the toe is right on the selvage edge of the tube, which would make it easier to deal with because I don't have to rip back to put my toe in. I think I'm going to want to shift my heel to keep the stripes, but let's take a closer look. Now it's easier to see just how close my heel is to the top of that stripe without quite being there. I'm going to go ahead and slide it up. I know that will be a little more ripping out and an extra lifeline to place for my toe, but I will have an easier time with my first row of stitches on the heel, and that's because, like I mentioned earlier, the row of stitches at the line of my heel will be cut, and since I have my heel on the edge of a stripe now, I know that when I start my heel rounds, they will be one color on top and the other color on the bottom, and even if I lose my marker, I can always keep track of my rounds because of my 2 different stripes. Since I've decided where I want my heel and toe to be, it's time to put in my lifelines. I like to put in all my lifelines right away so I don't forget what I had intended to do in the first place. You'll need a yarn needle, some scrap yarn, embroidery floss, or dental floss, anything that you can thread through the stitches of the tube. Now it's important to err on the side of cutting too much scrap yarn than too little, I think. When you're sewing in your lifeline, you're going to look at the V's of the knitting and pass your needle through the first leg of each V. This acts the same as if you slipped a stitch purlwise from one needle to the next while knitting. I will be honest though, this is something I get wrong all of the time, and will show you how to correct it in your first row of knitting in a later video. For the toe, which is what I'm putting in right now, you will place the lifeline all the way around the tube. The heel only has a lifeline on 1/2 of the total stitches in your tube because the heel is only worked across half the stitches. If you have any questions on how to make your foot ruler, how to measure for the heel and toe, or how to place a lifeline, please add them to the Facebook group. Feel free to share pictures of your in-progress socks or your foot tracings too.